Where they at? Where they at? Everything you own in the box to the left. If I bought it, then it's mine. So don't do the thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, welcome to this week's episode of Culture Makers. I'm here with our friend Riley Savala.
And I'm here with our friend James Meehan.
And that's me.
And we're wearing the same outfit.
The same outfit.
We didn't even plan it.
Well, not really.
One sec, James.
You messed up your jacket.
You know what? Leave that in. Don't edit that out.
Okay, got
Because
it.
we're real here. Today we're going to talk about, is it wrong to care about what you look like? Mm-hmm. Taylor Swift's new old album. Yes. And how to process our emotions, things like anger, in a way that's really healthy. So stick around and hopefully you'll find something of valuable through this conversation.
Yes.
Is it wrong to care about what you look like?
Okay, here's the thing, is I don't think it's wrong to care about what you look like.
Okay.
It's just, it goes back to your heart posture. So are you caring about what you look like for other people, like for your friends and all of those things because you're like, oh, I want them to think that I'm this way. I want them to like the clothes that I'm wearing because I want them to like me. Like if that's your heart posture, then I think that's wrong. And that's just gonna end you up in a really unhealthy place because if you're living for other people in terms of what you're wearing and what you look like just to like impress other people, then it's not, I mean, that's just not a healthy thing for you to do to yourself. But if you enjoy fashion, if you enjoy taking care of yourself, you like to put on makeup or you like to do your hair, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's totally makes sense to take care of yourself, to have fun doing that, and to put your best foot forward.
Come on, that's fantastic. Because it doesn't matter what you wear or what you put on your face. The deepest part of you is the image of God. You were created in the image of God. And no matter what you put on the outside of you, you can't take that away from what's inside of you. And so I think that's really good. And if you happen to want to dress just like us, because we're so freaking dope,
Yeah, we are.
join the party, come on!
Come on!
Come on! Taylor Swift's old new album. Are you summoning a spirit bomb?
No,
Dragon Ball Z reference?
I love this album.
Dear gosh, this is so concerning. Don't worry, later we will talk about how to process our anger in a healthy way. So that'll
No,
be
it's not
really
anger.
bad.
I'm excited. That
Wow.
was my excited face.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what it looks like
That's
when I'm
what
excited.
that looked like.
Because here's the deal. Taylor Swift, she's remaking all of her old albums. If you didn't know this because you live under a rock, that's what this show's for. Here we go. We're helping you out. She's remaking them to like kind of claim them. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. To like make them her own. And she's coming back strong. Because not only is she re-releasing her albums, but then she's adding all the songs that are quote unquote from the vault. So songs that she wrote during that time that never made it on the album. And if you're like me, I was really into Taylor Swift when I was young. So whenever all this stuff came out, the From the Vault songs, most of them you could find like dupes on like YouTube with like this really cringy like lyric video.
Oh, gross.
And so I know most of them anyways.
Come on.
And then the 10-minute All Too Well version came out.
I don't know anything about this.
All Too Well was one of her best songs on the album.
Okay.
I mean, it ranks as one of the best songs, but it's also a personal opinion, just one of the best ones.
Interesting.
And it was supposedly about her ex, Jake Gyllenhaal.
I love Jake Gyllenhaal.
She came out with a 10-minute version, which was like added content that the Swifties, if you identify as a Swiftie, are taking it like and like bashing Jake Gyllenhaal with it a little bit.
Oh gosh.
Because they're like, dang, she's flaming Jake Gyllenhaal. And so everybody's like all
poor
up in his,
Jake.
I know, everybody's all up in his comment section, like blowing him up, being like, are you listening to the Red album? If you go to the comments, it's like, it's ridiculous. It's not how we should treat people, but it is really funny, but that's not okay.
You know, it's one of those things where, again, we're going to talk about this later, about how to process our emotions well.
Yes.
But Taylor Swift wrote a song.
Yes.
Jake Gyllenhaal went on Man vs. Wild with Bear Grylls. I don't actually know if that's timeline linked, but I remember watching that episode thinking it was the coolest thing ever.
Oh my gosh. I do feel bad for Jake though, because they dated so long ago that it's like so irrelevant at this point to him.
It is drudging up the past.
Yeah.
And
that sucks.
Hopefully he's taking it as a joke.
I think I mean, I obviously don't know Jake.
Yeah.
And Jake, if you're watching, I'm sorry for speaking for you, but I would say that he's probably just kind of like, it's fine. Like it's past stuff. It's more for like the hype and like it's gonna die down in like 24 hours. So I'm sure he's taking it like a champ. Way to go, Jake.
Way to go, Jake. The Red album, you're talking about the song All Too Well. Here's the real question. Is that better than the greatest Taylor Swift song of all time?
Oh my gosh.
Love Story. It's a love story, baby, just say yes.
That's literally one of her worst songs.
No, it's the best song.
No, it's not.
It's Romeo and I'm Juliet.
Okay, but you should leave. Okay, stop doing that. You're not Taylor Swift. So in the comment section below, you should tell us what your favorite Taylor Swift album is, because me and my best friend just got in a huge fight about it.
Oh, wow.
Not a real one, just a fake one.
No, like a real fight.
We got in a real fight about it because here's the thing. Red is clearly her best album.
Oh.
But then Folklore, I would say is my second favorite, and she was saying Evermore is better than Folklore.
I can't wade into this conversation because...
Anyways, moving on.
Teardrops on my guitar, greatest of all time. Goat. Adele.
She's releasing her new album.
Yep, which people are excited about.
You're clearly not excited about
Well,
this.
not really. I don't listen to that devil music, aka secular music. It's a love story, baby, just say yes. I'm kidding. We've talked about this on previous episodes
Yeah, go
of
check
Culture
it out.
Makers.
Go check
those
it
out.
out. Yeah,
Moving
yeah.
on.
Yes.
Mr. Beast, YouTuber.
Oh, you just blazed past Adele.
Oh,
It's
do we
really
want to
good.
talk more
No,
about
it's
Adele?
fine. Move on. Mr.
All right,
Beast.
Mr. Beast, YouTuber, recreated a set from Squid Games, like his
Yes.
own version of it.
For $2 million.
Cost him $2 million. First question, where does he get all this money? Second question, what do you think about that?
Dude, people just give him money for like the most ridiculous stuff.
I know, but people always say, you don't know where he gets his money from? He gets it from people. People just give it to him.
Yeah.
But who are these people?
You
Like,
know,
is it just
people.
tiny little donations from millions of
It's
people?
probably all of the above. It's probably tiny donations and ridiculous donations, and he's just
From Elon Musk. You heard it here first, folks. Culture Makers.
Elon Musk and Bill Gates. Totally fake news. But the stuff from Squid Games is actually so interesting looking. So, I mean, I don't blame him for recreating the set. If I had that kind of money, I would do it.
Wow, that is not
Actually,
at all
no. If I had
what
that kind of
would
money,
do with that kind
I
of
would
money.
give it to people because generosity.
It felt really fake, but okay. So... So we got some questions from you, our viewers, that we want to tackle. The one that we've been teasing this entire time is from Lillian M. She asked the question, hey, I'm struggling with anger issues. What can I do to control my anger and emotions?
Well, James, I think you're the perfect person to answer this question because don't you struggle with anger issues?
Nope, never been angry in my life. When I was in middle school, I was a wee little lad.
You used to fight people.
I used to fight people all the time
Yeah,
because I
remember.
had such intense anger issues and I had no idea how to process my emotions in a healthy way. Now, what was funny is back then I started doing all sorts of weird like tips and tricks I would find on the internet. One of them was when you find yourself getting angry, just curl your toes and do that 10 times.
Really?
And what they would talk about is that when you would do things like that, you're actually getting out of your emotions and into the physical sensations of your body. And so that was something that I would try occasionally.
Did it work?
And it was kind of helpful. It's sort of like deep breathing.
Oh,
Like people
right.
recommend that often. Like, because what it does is it forces you, gross, it forces you to slow down, to pause, to get out of the moment and back into control of your body. And so you
That's
control
great.
something you can to help you gain control of something that you maybe can't, like your anger and emotions. The other thing that was really helpful for me was doing mixed martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Trained that for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
And it was really helpful
makes
because
sense.
through things like martial arts, you learn great things like discipline and self-control. Because contrary to popular belief, getting angry does not make you a better fighter. It actually makes you sloppy and worse. I remember
Interesting.
all the people who would say things like, oh, bro, when I get mad, then I'm just like a different person. Like I could whoop on somebody. And I just remember thinking like, oh, yeah, you've clearly never trained martial arts.
Dang.
So
Savage.
those are some of the things that I used to do.
Yeah.
Now, honestly, one of the things that's most helpful is just taking time every morning and slowing down, breathing deeply, and praying and asking God to guide me throughout my day. Because what I do is I take time in the morning to slow down, to create space, to pause and reflect. Because whenever you get in the busyness of your day, there's usually not the same amount of time that you have to slow down and reflect on what is the best option. Instead, you're sort of in reaction mode all day
Yeah.
long. And so that's one of the things that helps me basically practice my response before I ever get to the craziness of the day.
Right.
And then in the middle of those really crazy times, the reality is oftentimes we won't be in full control of what we're doing. And so we may lash out and react in a way that is less than what would be considered loving and kind. And I think one of the best things that you can do after you've realized that's happened is just go back to the people that you lashed out at and say, hey, I'm really sorry that I just lost my cool. I really want to be better. Will you forgive me? And it's even those tiny little conversations where you go back, you pause, you reflect on what you did wrong and commit to trying to do better that will help you take these tiny little baby steps to give you a little bit more self-control over your emotions.
Dang, that's so great. Literally what you're saying about the morning time is this is what good accountability and community looks like. I have friends who can tell if I didn't have time for like my Jesus time.
Oh, snap.
Which I don't know if that tells you more about them and how well they know me or more about me and how I act. But literally, if I find myself being like more impatient, more quick to anger, or just, I'll find myself like flustered easily or whatever. They'll be like, did you have your time with Jesus this morning? Oh, that calls me out every time. But it's great. It's great to have that accountability because I'm the same way. I never realize in the moment how it affects me, but it really does like change the way your day goes and how you go about your day when you have that time. And then the other thing I would just say is taking time in the moment. For me, I know it's better to like actually remove myself from the situation if I'm like really angry and just give it a second. Because usually I'm more angry and more likely to be irrational and respond out of that anger like in the first immediate like moment than even if I take a minute or 2 minutes to walk out and then I'm like thinking through it and logically and then I'm like, like this is actually probably better to respond this way. So I've even told my friends and the people around me like, hey, if I like need a second, like because I'm angry, like just give me that moment. Because sometimes you have those friends who like chase after you and are like, are you okay? And it's like, no, I really just genuinely need a moment. And they know that. So they give me that time and come back and then we handle it much better. That's
so good. So figure out, how do you react in those moments? What's best for you? Is it to take a minute to get away? Is it to process through it in the here and now? Whatever that looks like. And I would just encourage you to find some daily time to spend with Jesus because the fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Those are all things that come from being in the presence of God. And those are all things that help us respond better in the moment.
So good.
Brooke S. wants to know, any tips on getting out of the mindset of focusing so much on the works aspect of our walk with God rather than just having faith?
That is a great question. I love that question so much.
I hate it. I'm just kidding.
Okay. I've found that there are two types of people in this world when it comes to like Christianity that lean naturally one way or the other. So some people find themselves leaning more towards grace of like they just do whatever they want, more towards grace and faith of like they're like, like da 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 da. I'm one of those people, like I lean more towards grace versus like there's some people who maybe lean a little bit more legalistic of like I have to do these things so that God will love me. And then they realize like, and I always have those friends that like realize that and they catch themselves and they're like, nope, there's grace and truth, right? So it's like, we should, pay attention to how we're acting. We should pay attention to how we're responding. Absolutely. And operate out of that because Jesus lives inside of us and we should live as Jesus. But at the same time, there is so much grace and so much faith involved that we don't have to do everything perfect so that we have a relationship with God. Like he's already given it to us. Yeah. For me, like some of the things that have been the best for me is again, I keep bringing up accountability and community, but it's great because that's what you need in your life. For sure, having friends that will help bring that truth and processing, because there'll be times where I process with other people and I'm like, this is kind of what I'm finding myself in, or I'm finding myself doing like more works instead of being just trusting the Lord and all those things. And my friends being like, hey, but there's also this side of the things. Like you don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to do all of the right things so that God will use you. And having those people to remind you of that. What else would you say?
I would say yes. I would say the idea of faith and works is a and not an or.
So good.
And this is the thing that's so important to recognize is that when we look at the scope of the New Testament, we see the writings from Paul where he seems to lean really heavy on faith and grace and not so much on works. But then we've got the letter of James that is like really heavy works, but they're not contradicting each other. Actually, what they're doing is complementing each other.
Absolutely.
The way that we define faith in Switch is that faith is trust based on evidence that leads to obedience. Because if you really trust that God is good and he's Lord and he knows what's best for your life, then that should lead to you changing the way that you live. Now, here's the thing. Us changing the way that we live does not earn God's love because grace, what is that? It is the unearned favor of God. There is nothing we can do to earn God's favor, but in response to the grace of God, we trust, we follow him, we obey him because we know that life according to God's ways is so much better than our ways. So the fact that you're asking that question means you're wrestling with the very real tension that is choosing to follow Jesus faithfully. So I'm really glad that you asked that question. If there's anything else that we can do to support you in your journey of becoming a culture maker, a fully devoted follower of Christ, make sure you leave that in the comments down below. And we're just thankful that you chose to spend some time with us. Riley, any last words?
We're actually in the middle of a series by faith.
What? Fear ain't in this house. Faith? Fear? False evidence appearing real?
For any,
fear?
Stop.
Real?
Stop.
Really? Everyone always love?
Okay, you're done.
Look over.
No, but for real, if that was...
Energetic.
Stop.
Energetic?
No.
Everyone needs
everyone.
Really? God? Eternal? Trinity?
They logged off. They're done.
Christ.
They're done. They're done.
No,
you know what?
they're still
Have you seen that You're done. Have you seen that TikTok?
I don't watch TikToks.
You're done.
I'm
You're
too
done.
holy.
Okay. Oh my gosh, we're derailing. By Faith is the new series that we're in. If you're watching this right now, you can join us on Switch Online.
A long time
Focus
ago.
right here. If you're joining us right now, join us on Switch Online. If you're watching this in the future, it's actually on our YouTube channel. We upload them every week. Yeah. So By Faith is the name of the series. Go check it out. We talk all about faith, and so that would be what I'd recommend you pay attention to. Get into the Word.
Okay, goodbye.
Wow. Bye.